Welcome there, students. Today I was able to get feedback on everybody's outline in my online classes, and make sure you log on to Moodle and read that feedback because there's a handful of y'all that need to choose new topics. Um, you know, the people who chose good topics, which is the majority of you. I thought your charts and your breakdown looked really good. Your topics seem reasonable, and it looks like you got a nice plan, and all you have to do is execute that plan. But what you're about to, the reason the big reason I'm submitting this email is past this point, you're going to begin composing the paper. You're going to be doing working on word count, right? And due before Sunday night is the first 400 words of the paper. Now, you can either choose to begin with the introduction or you can wait and do that later. Most of you are going to want to go ahead and write the introduction because some people feel awkward about just jumping into the body. However, that's what we've been doing for a while in our exercises. If you choose to skip the introduction, tippy type a little note from me on that Google Doc. Remember to remember to be writing your paper in that compare and contrast paper Google Doc, by the way. But if you decide to skip the introduction, some students like to do that. Leave me a little note that says, "Mr. Tuck, I skipped the introduction." It can even count to your 400 word counts, I guess. But what you're doing here in the 400 words, and this has confused some people because I've gotten some emails from people. All I want is the first 400 words or just 400 words of the paper. So probably for most people that'll be your introduction and a couple of body paragraphs, about half the paper. The paper needs to be 850 to 1,000 words. I hope most of you will go past the minimum because I think you will to show me what I want from your discussion, which is to have more than 3 supporting ideas, to have more than 3 body paragraphs. I want you to all at least have 4 body paragraphs, 4 criteria, and to show me different classes of differences in the 2 things that you've chosen. Yeah, 400 words due before the end of the week. And then next week, you'll see there's a submission point. I ended up closing that to you guys because I didn't want everybody working ahead. Most people wouldn't anyway, but a handful of y'all would be like, screw you, Mr. Tuck. I'm going to go ahead and write this whole thing without any of your input. And hopefully you won't do that because the point of me being here is to collaborate with you, to offer you feedback so that you can adjust and make changes and improve as you go. And so that by the time you submit your final draft, you have some notes and feedback from which you can revise and improve what you're doing and grow as a writer. So, anyway, I just decided last minute today to hide next week. But just know that next week, when you submit 800 words, it means resubmit this 400 words. That's helpful for me. And then tack on the next new 800 words. And I'll probably say more about that next week, but I'll go ahead and tell you. By the time you submit that 800 words, you should have integrated a source, no more than 3. But integrated a source and definitely document it according to MLA guidelines to the best of your ability, because that's what I'm going to be looking at next week when I want to give you some feedback. Like after you submit this on Monday or Tuesday, when I'm getting around to reading this stuff, I'm probably going to be talking to you about introductions and perhaps your organization strategy. But after your 800 word submission, you already got that stuff or my feedback on that. Well, now I really want to talk to you about how you're using sources and how you documented them. So make sure that you have that stuff straight and done well to the best of your ability so I can counsel you on that to make sure nobody accidentally plagiarizes. So that's our big goal for next week. As for this week, probably you're going to submit an intro and a couple of body paragraphs. I forgot this text existed with my face-to-face classes, but I was reading my face-to-face classes introductions, and they're not very good, if I'm being transparent. Sorry, getting choked up on that. I forgot I had this text here that straight up gives you advice on just the introduction. Please take a minute and review this thing. It's worth reading start to finish, but I can give you the short form. Don't let this take the place of it. Students' introductions in this compare and contrast paper can often be very awkward. And I'll tell you what makes them awkward. Okay, remember, the inverted triangle is the shape of your introduction. I'm trying to make this work in my little thumbnail down there. Okay, I can't do it, but the first sentence of your introduction shouldn't be something of the effect of, everybody's talking about LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Well, that's kind of an awkward way to open the discussion, and not everybody is talking about that. And it's kind of a tired conversation, to be honest with you. Hey, none of my online students are writing that. In fact, none of y'all chose to write about sports. What's up with that? I got a lot of people writing about sports on face-to-face. I got a Kyrie Irving and Steph Curry paper coming at me. And this new guy with the name that starts with a W that I cannot pronounce, comparing him with Giannis. Anyway, look, you need to find a creative way to open the discussion, not gimmicky, but just state something that is general yet relevant, that can put us in the ballpark of the thing you're trying to talk about. So I'm trying to think. Well, I got a lot of automotive people writing about gasoline and electric cars, okay? Well, the first sentence doesn't need to be gasoline and electric cars have both similarities and differences. No, that's kind of what your thesis is going to sound like. So you don't start the introduction there. You start somewhere a little general, yet relevant, that puts us in the ballpark, scratches the surface, however you want to say it. You say something like, anyone driving on the road today has seen an influx in the number of Teslas and other popular electric car brands. A lot of people are considering going to electric. They have people changing from gasoline to electric might have certain concerns about blah 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 blah, or being anyhow. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm doing? I'm just trying to open a conversation. Remember, our intro theory is start somewhat broadly and grow into your thesis as you get closer to it. So the way I see it, definitely read this. I know I'm talking all over it, but start broadly, put us in the ballpark. Somehow in there, you got to help us see that this is relevant or needed information, establish exigence. And then when you get into the middle of the introduction, maybe now it's time to introduce your two subjects. Now, I sometimes think the trickiest sentence in an introduction is the sentence before the thesis. I know my thesis is just going to say A and B are different in these ways, and that matters because blah, blah, blah. Something like that. But what goes between introducing those things and the thesis is kind of, it can be tricky. Just depends on what you're writing about. So you'll have to figure that one out on your own. But definitely take a moment and read this thing. And I also throw a bunch of thesis templates at you and show you what your thesis ought to sound like. So take the time to look at this before you begin writing that introduction in the next few days. And just know that, yeah, you're just going to submit 400 words of the paper. That doesn't mean squash your paper down to 400 words. It means write an intro and a couple of body paragraphs. And then next time you submit, include those, and then an additional 400 words.